Welcome to episode 31 of Followers of the Cross. This is your host, Jason Reynolds. This episode features Danielle Hitchen of Washington, D.C. She's the author of Bible Basics, a baby believer counting primer. This board book, or thick paperboard book for small children, is beautifully illustrated by artist Jessica Blanchard. Danielle does a fantastic job of balancing heavy theological knowledge with a format that the youngest of children can learn from. I'll let Danielle tell you more.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I have two young children, 2.5 and almost 10 months. And I was looking for age-appropriate material to teach them the basic tenets of the Christian faith, and I kept coming up empty. I mean, there's a lot out there in terms of storybook Bibles, and those are great, but they don't really get into any theology. So I designed this book to be able to teach small children, babies, toddlers, and preschoolers the core tenets of the Christian faith by mapping those concepts onto a counting book. And, children can understand numbers. They can understand 1, 2, 3, 4. So I figured if you can map the theology onto the numbers and give them something concrete to hold on to, that will help them to categorize and retain the information.
It's amazing, then, that there really wasn't, with all of the books out there, that there really wasn't anything quite like that.
Yeah, it surprised me. Honestly, when I had the idea, I started looking around because I thought surely somebody's done this before. But I looked and I looked and I looked and I dug through Christian book websites and I just couldn't find anything.
And what was sort of the reaction that you got from people in publishing when you talked about this idea? I believe
people
you're
in publishing,
self-publishing,
as in, traditional?
Yeah, in general. Yeah.
So I chose to self-publish for a number of reasons. The primary one was that people told me it was pretty much impossible to break into traditional publishing, especially the children's traditional publishing market. So the book has been well received since the Kickstarter in the traditional publishing world, and I'm working with an agent right now. But it's been quite a great experience to self-publish the book and to see the reaction of people. As soon as I started telling other young parents, or I should say parents of young children, about this book, they were really excited. They said that this is the book that they've been looking for their kids as well.
And that's when you know that you have a product that people are going to buy. And, yeah, excellent. So where can people buy this? Is this distributed to the major bookstores? Is this mostly on your website?
Well, right now the only place to buy the book is online. They can go to my website, which is biblebasicsbook.com, or the book is also available on Amazon.
Okay. And I believe you're also looking at doing a series. Can you talk a little bit about that process and how that's going to look?
Sure. So I do hope that Bible Basics is the first of a series called the Baby Believer Primers, and I hope to move through several other concepts. Right now we are working on a second book, but I can't say too much more than that. We hope that it will be released early in 2018.
2018, okay. And tell me a little bit about yourself and your family. I believe you live in Washington, it says, and what would be a little bit more about what would people want to know about Danielle Hitchen?
Yeah, so my family and I do live in the Washington, D.C. area. I have two children, as I mentioned before. I have a daughter who's 2.5 and a son who's 10 months. And my husband and I have been married for 5 years. I don't come to book writing by way of my professional training. I have kind of an eclectic background of radio production, event planning, nonprofit and church administration, PR. I just sort of fell into this project, like I said, because I was looking for something for my own kids and I couldn't find anything. And I thought, well, I think I can make this book. but it's been really fun to work on this project and to draw on the skills that I've gained through my various professional positions over the last couple of years and see how those skills have come together to help make this book a success.
And that was another question I had. What would be one of the most surprising things that you've learned, or one of the biggest challenges you ever came as doing your own publishing brand?
So, I mean, one of the things that I just had absolutely no experience in before I published is figuring out a supply chain and how to get the books printed, how to get them from the printer to a port in the United States, how to get them from a port to a warehouse and get them distributed to customers. And even just finding a printer overseas, because there are no board books printed in the United States, that was a challenge. I had to learn how to speak an entirely new printer language about the weight of the pages and what I wanted the book to look like and feel like. And it's been a really great learning experience for me to sort of sort through all those things. And I have so much respect for small business owners, especially ones that produce physical products and not just thought products, so to speak.
Yeah, because then you're getting into overhead and inventory and all of that stuff.
Yep.
It really is a business. I self-published on a small scale recently, and it's been a learning curve as well. Thank you. And then an additional question I had was the artwork. Jessica Blanchard, she does a really interesting. She does some really interesting illustrations and really kind of ties everything together with you're going from some heavy stuff and condensing it down for young children, but she does a wonderful job, I thought, of helping to do that. Can you tell me a little bit about Jessica and sort of how that partnership formed?
Sure. Jess has been such a terrific partner throughout this project. She and I were introduced to each other by my pastor, and she is also a mom of 2 young children, and she's local, which has been great. We've been able to work closely together. And when I originally talked with her about the project, she immediately got it. And I gave her some aesthetic reference points, and we started talking about the kind of design for the book and my vision for the book. And she's just been 100% there for the entire project. Like, she just gets it. And one of the things that was really important to both of us from the start of this project was that we make a beautiful book. We felt like a book about a beautiful God should be a beautiful book. And so, I mean, certain pages were certainly a challenge, particularly looking at like the 2 natures of Jesus, fully God and fully man. We had to be really careful to illustrate that in such a way that was not heretical. We felt like that was a page where we could particularly get into some funny heresy if we weren't careful about the way that we depicted that image. And I'm really happy with the way that one ended up. So yeah, and she's been really prayerful about the entire process, and I would come to her with illustration ideas, and she would say, okay, well, let me think about that. Let me see what I could come up with. And, I would give her a suggestion, and then she'd come back to me with something that was just like so much better than what I had imagined it could look like. So she's tremendous.
Excellent. Is there anything that we haven't mentioned yet that's relevant for this book, or just anything else that you want to tell people about Bible basics, or just in general about teaching the scriptures to young children?
Sure. I would say that, this book does have some pretty big concepts for little kids. I mean, there's the doctrine of the Trinity is in there, or the fact that Jesus is fully God and fully man. And I would say that I don't expect small children to come away from this book with a fully formed understanding or theology of these concepts. I mean, most adults don't have a full understanding of the doctrine of the Trinity. However, the way small children work is that they're little sponges, and they soak up information, they memorize things, and things stick with them. And so I think that if we can start exposing children to the vocabulary of basic theological concepts from an early age, that will help them as they grow and they can ask questions. Parents can have deeper and more meaningful faith conversations with their children because they have these handholds from Bible basics that kids are learning from early stages. And I've even seen some fruit of this in my own children's life as I've been reading them the book over the last couple of months. My daughter, she opens up the book and she says, "One God," or when we were looking at nativity scenes over the Christmas season, she pointed out baby Jesus and said, "Fully God." And I said, "That's right, baby Jesus is fully God." And she doesn't necessarily know what that means, but I love that she's connected that concept to the person of Jesus. And we will hopefully be able to have conversation about that as she gets older and is asking more questions.
That's all the time for today. Before we close, I'd like to ask you to check out my new sci-fi humor book, Hot Dogs Really Do Bark, on Amazon's Kindle and print on demand. The book features aliens, talking groundhogs, and of course, hot dogs. Thank you for listening.